In this video, I want to go back to the future, get in the DeLorean, and take a look at UConn in 25-26 and a potential recruit that they are trying to bring in. That would be Lara Somfai. If you are not aware, she recently narrowed her top 5 down to a top 3. As Virginia Tech and Tennessee were cut from her list, that leaves Duke, Stanford, and UConn left on her list of 3 schools that she is interested in attending in the 25-26 season. In this video, I'll give some of her backstory and why she might just be the perfect fit for UConn. But before we start, if you enjoy the content, then please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. All right, let's get into this. So Lara Somfai is currently ranked number 31 on the ESPN top recruit rankings for the 25-26 class. She is a 6'4" forward who's currently playing at IMG Academy. Her game is very similar to Alana Smith, who's currently having a breakout season with the Lynx in the WNBA. As like Smith, she's 6'4", can go inside, outside, and appears to be developing just a good all-around game that would fit in nice with the UConn system, as they love bigs that can stretch the defense, and that's exactly what she would do for them. The other reason she seems like a good fit for UConn is just her mentality and makeup, and it's the type of player UConn would want, as if you've noticed recently, they like the overseas international players and have had good success with them, with Dorka and Nika Mule and Aaliyah Edwards, just to name a few. And I suspect they like the international players, as oftentimes they're very focused and looking to develop their games to go professional. And I know all the players are, but they bring that extra professional attitude that oftentimes UConn expects out of their players, because it's a big adjustment moving from your hometown, whether it be in Australia or Nika in Europe or Edwards from Canada, and adjusting to life in the United States, and it just takes that extra level of maturity. Now, Somfai grew up in South Australia in Adelaide. Her parents are originally from Hungary, and she still has other family over in Hungary, but she's basically born and bred in Australia. When she was young, she tried to do gymnastics and dance, but she was too tall for those. Like the teacher said, this really isn't the sport or hobby for you. Her mom would not let her watch TV growing up during the holidays and say, you've got to go outside and do something. They had a basketball hoop outside. She said as well they had a church right next to them that had a nice basketball court, and basically that's where her basketball career was born as a young kid. And because she was tall, she obviously made all the rep teams and was cited pretty early as, hey, this is somebody to keep your eye on. In one of the interviews I listened to, she got a bit frustrated with basketball when she was an under 14s, and she credits Joey Wright, who's an American coach who came over to Australia years ago, and he ran personal coaching sessions for her and was a big inspiration and still is for her as well. But she gave a lot of credit to him for helping her refine her love of the game, as she helped develop and help her get better. As a young kid, she had a YouTube channel, and she interviewed like Joey Wright and other players and programs out in South Australia. One of the players that she interviewed was Morgan Yeager, who played at Oregon at the time of Sabrina Ionescu and Satu Sabali, and you could see the wheels ticking over in her head interviewing her about that she was always going to go college. And she asked Yeager during the interview how she decided to go through the American college system versus playing in the WNBL or NBL 1, which is available for Australian players. And Yeager explained to her that the advice she received was, go take advantage of the college system, because you can always come back to Australia, but you can only go or take advantage of the college system for a limited period of time, and there's no harm if it doesn't work out. And it's pretty clear that Somfai's taken that advice to heart. She accepted an offer to go to the Australian Institute of Sport, or now it's called the Center of Excellence, which is in Canberra, Australia. The NBA runs a basketball academy out of the same location as well, and it's basically a basketball prep school, if you like, much like Mount Verde Academy or IMG. But after a short time there, she got an offer to attend IMG, and she decided to take up that offer, as she thought it would better help prepare her for the physicality of the American game. And if she truly wanted to go to college, that was the best place to go. But something interesting she said as well, like her mom's always telling her, hey, push your boundaries. That's when you learn about yourself, and that's when you grow. And it seems like she's really always keen to challenge herself or do something that might be a bit beyond her to make herself better. In the interview I saw her in, she said she's just gotten so much better from being at IMG Academy. So she went there, started last year, and this will be her senior year coming up. And she says it's really been an adjustment to the American physicality. Things that aren't called fouls in America would be definitely fouls in Australia. And basically at IMG, during the practices, they don't call fouls. Like she's there with Callias Fisher, who's going to be going to UConn in the 25-26 class. So UConn would be keen to get both of those players. Now, in terms of where she might be going, that's sort of interesting. Her dad is really keen on her going to Stanford. As I mentioned, the other two schools on her list are Duke and then obviously UConn. Her plan is to visit all three schools during fall with her parents, and Joey Wright will come over from Australia as well, who coached her back in Adelaide. Joey Wright, by the way, went to Texas, and he was keen for her to go to Texas.
I wanted to honor you with my Texas shirt, but sadly I didn't have one, so I just wore my transition sports one.
I'll make sure I take care of that. I'll make sure you have a Texas one. And when you sign at UT, you can get all the gear you want.
But Texas is not on her list. The other one that I thought was interesting was I thought Virginia Tech with Kenny Brooks, as he had Georgia Amore, but obviously Brooks moved to Kentucky. I think that's the reason she took Virginia Tech off the list. I'm wondering if Kentucky will be added to the list at some stage. It doesn't look like it now, but Somfai says that if none of the three schools are a fit when she visits, then she'll just add other schools and take a look around to see which one might work best for her. Now, speaking of Georgia Amore, Somfai said one of the adjustments she had to make when she came to America was how seriously they took basketball, as she usually plays basketball with a smile on her face, much like Georgia Amore. If you listen to her in interviews, it's clear that she's a very likable kid, but you shouldn't let the smile fool you, as she's a tough kid. Like the first time she made the under-16 Australian team, they played in the Middle East, and when she was brushing her teeth, she accidentally swallowed some water and got a stomach infection. So the whole tournament, she was on IVs the whole time. The IV was taken out just before the semifinal game versus Japan, and she was able to play. She talked about, after that, talked about Japan. She said they were like ants all over me. She'd never played against Japan before, and they were all little, but it just felt like ants. She said they were pinching her as well, which was a new experience. The other thing that impressed me about her was when she arrived at IMG, like she arrived in Florida in the afternoon, and the next morning she attended the 6 a.m. practice, like her first practice ever, and she's like, yeah, let's go. I'm here. Let's do this thing. So she obviously has that mentality that you need to be that elite player. And overall, I just think she would be a perfect fit for UConn. I think all three schools would be a good school for her, but UConn, the thing that sticks out is how she likes to challenge herself and push herself beyond. And I think UConn would offer, obviously, all the players talk about when you go to UConn, just getting through the practices, and it's brutal your 4 years there, but you know when you finish up that you will be a better player. And it's much like how she's saying going to the IMG Academy. It's been a rough transition or a difficult transition, but she's so glad she did it, as she knows her game's already gotten better. I think the next step would be to go to UConn, but be determined. If she does wind up committing to UConn fans should be very excited, as her skill set, like I said, matches what UConn needs. In addition, she's just very likable. She gives off very, very likable in her interviews. She visited UConn when they played Syracuse in the tournament, is my understanding. She attended that game. So to be determined, like I said, all three schools are in the mix, and it will be determined after her visits. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope to see you next time. Good night.